And so, like always, Girls' Last Tour opens up with another question. What is hopelessness? Now, this is one of the big reasons why I love this series. Just the very thought-provoking questions each single week. Like, what is music? What is a house? What is hopelessness? What does it mean to, have a dream? Just so many different things. What is God? And this series continues to just fascinate me with how the world building is done. And once again, I want to remind everyone that these characters, Yu and Chito, they do not have any understanding to how the world used to be. They have, like, a slight understanding, but they don't have the full picture. They just kind of have, like, a little bit of, like, the puzzle. Like, a couple little pieces of the puzzle, and that's basically it. They don't have any major information whatsoever. So these type of questions are very engaging and interesting to see how they think what certain things mean, or what some things mean. In this case, hopelessness, and why people go so far to do something that seems rather pointless or hopeless in the first place. Let's talk about this character that was introduced in this episode. So, this character, she is someone that is building an airplane. Now, at first glance, when you see this, it seems like that would be amazing to build. It would be, really helpful for our characters if they were able to gain flight and go to the higher levels of this world. We would get to see a lot. However, that necessarily seemed like a pipe dream, because building these aircrafts is very risky. Because, number one, technology has been lost. Throughout the ages and many times that civilization has fallen, so much technology has been lost. Older models to newer models and all that technology, humanity can't even understand at this point. It's all been lost. And so if someone was to try to replicate this, even if they had blueprints, they might not be able to understand the concept of how some of these things work. And so in this case, when you see this woman trying to work on an airplane, it seems like a really cool thing to do, but we gotta look at the setting. What is really going on in this world? The world is a post-apocalyptic setting. And so, when you really think about it, stuff like building airplanes seems to be the least of your concern. I mean, let's look at it like this. If you all, let's say we were in the world of Girls' Last Tour. You had to journey, you had to get in a vehicle or whatever, you had to journey to the next area to try to get rations and food and stuff, and then hopefully if you get to the higher levels, you get to, a bigger city to where you actually find people, and you have, food and all of that. You want to travel. You always got to stay on the move before you can continue to find stuff where you can continue to live and survive. In this case, sitting around in one area trying to work on something relatively seems very bad to do. I mean, let's back up and let's look at the previous episode with the house thing. As we know, with Yu and Chia, if they were to set up and to try to, stay in a certain location, eventually they would run out of food and they would die. That's just how it is, because of how resources are. Even if they had water and electricity, they still need food. I mean, they can try to go for a while with just water, but they eventually will need food, and they will end up dying in the long run. So they got to keep moving to, scavenge and find stuff where they can continue to live. In this case, staying in one location is not necessarily an option anymore. Everybody is a traveler nowadays, and if you do stick around in one area, you don't really expect to probably live for too long, because you will eventually die. You don't have a very long time at all. So when you see this woman sitting in the same area, she has her own home setup and all that, she's working on, this airplane, basically this is what lets us know that what she's doing is rather pointless or hopeless, and that's kind of the entire theme of what this is. Like I said, this is a post-apocalyptic setting, and so building something like an airplane, it's pointless to do in a setting like this, because you should only focus on food, water, and shelter at that time and then move on, not sitting down in a location working on an airplane. It doesn't make much sense. And when you look at her character, what she represents is human passion or human dreams, what we want to obtain. And I feel like it's very fitting for this episode to focus on flight, because if there's one thing that you could really look back on when it comes to humanity as a species, something that many have talked about for hundreds upon hundreds of years, we always talked about the ability to maybe flight, be able to soar through the air like a bird, maybe reach the stars, reach the moon, reach other planets and other solar systems. Humanity has always talked about flight. flight, had to reach the sky. And I feel like it's very fitting for this to be focused on a flight episode, because it's one of the, humanity's oldest dreams to ever obtain or be able to do is to fly. And in this case, even though it's pointless to work on, it shows once again at its core, humanity will do things what they want to do. They will achieve and try to go for their dream, even if it seems rather pointless or useless or stupid to do at that time. Humanity will continue to do what they want to do, because that is a part of their very being. We are dreamers. We are a species that loves to dream and think about things that we cannot obtain, things that we want to obtain, and we eventually could if we put a lot of effort into it. We are that type of species. So when you see her working on this plane, even though it's not helping her in the grand scheme of things, and it failed in the end, she's still being like a normal human being. She is very human. And that's what makes me really appreciate this episode. Anyways, let's talk about also how the part when the plane actually collapsed. That scene is very impactful because it has a lot of meaning there, and if you take a moment to process it, you'll kind of get it. Basically, when she took flight and she was starting to soar through the air, I had this feeling within me like something bad was going to happen. Something bad definitely did happen. And I was like, whoa. And I was wondering if she had a parachute, which she did. She lived. But here's the thing when you might look at this scene, okay? Number one, people look at the scene like, that's very sad. Her dream just went up in flames. Just shattered right there. She no longer will be able to obtain what she wants. Because since she's, going down to the lowest levels of the planet or whatever, which is the very bottom, which we could assume barely has any resources, food, or anything, she is, going into a hopeless situation where she might die. However, because of how she survived right now, she lived another day, she has a parachute, she might eventually be able to do this once again. It's kind of like this, okay? Many might say, what's the point? What's the point? I mean, if you fail, why don't you just die with it? Die with your project, die with your dream, and that's it. Then, it's over. But that's the thing, though. When your life is over, you never are given the option to retry, give another redo. And in this case, since she was able to live, and even though it was hopeless to begin with, she got to live. And so there is a chance maybe one day, if she ever gets back to the higher levels again, she might be able to fly. And her dream could probably rekindle itself. She doesn't necessarily need to give up. And that's what humanity is at its core. We are dreamers. We are people that constantly seek out what we want to obtain. And in this case, this gives her a whole new objective in life, to go back up to the higher levels of the floor and be able to build a plane for she can fly in the sky. Even though she fell once, doesn't mean that she will fail the second time. So I just wanted to point that out. So overall, a very, very, very good episode of Girls Last Tour. Really enjoyed it. I think everybody can agree with me that this is definitely one of the better series of Fall of Anime 2017. I really love this series, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I love you guys. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe, and if you like this video, please leave a like. I love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.